I can't remember the last time I looked at the trending 10 and said, every single book is something I would consider buying right now. Hit that like and subscribe. We do this every week, and our LCS owner will hit you at number 10.
Number 10 on the list, brand new this week from Massive Publishing. I Lie Popeye #1. This is the 8-bit video game variant. Such a cool book. And yes, one of those that if I find this in the wild, I'm absolutely picking this up. $30 average sales. I'm seeing buy it now is in the $45, $50 range. It is a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out homage, which is so fitting when you've got Popeye and Bluto on the cover.
It's so fitting with the buzz that is Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. It is a fantastic homage and a comic book that I didn't know needed a crossover in genre. This is being titled a book that is, yes, you have Popeye on one end, like OG cartoon, like Mickey Mouse status type of stuff. And then they're crossing it over with a manga style narrative akin to One Piece and Dragon Ball. What is this synopsis? I need to read this.
I think this is one of those books that went under everybody's radar because I have people who are Popeye fans and I have people who are Street Fighter and Darkstalkers fan, but we don't generally have a crossover. All of a sudden, we have a book that I think those of you that are fighting game fans are really going to want to pick up. Go find it at your shops.
Shout out to Trevor Richardson who killed it on this cover. We're going to find out the origin of Popeye and how he lost his eye in this series. Massive produced Crashdown. So we appreciate you guys. Congratulations on the banger release. Download Key Collector Comics, the best comic app in existence. Use code Tom101 to unlock a free 2-week subscription of the service. And New York City Comic Con's like a month and a half away. You need to be savvy when you're doing the hunt and savvy when you're buying comic books online. Hot lists are on there. You're going to learn about what's spiking in the marketplace because of news. You support the show as well. 9 on the list is West Coast Avengers. #1 from 1984. They released a 4-issue mini-series first that would then get picked up, and they do an amazing run that everyone needs to read. This is the first ever spin-off series of the Avengers.
We are seeing $15 average sales and $180 for a CGC 9.8. This is the first time we see the West Coast Avengers team, which includes Hawkeye, Vision, Mockingbird, Tigra, Iron Man, and Wonder Man. Now, it's kind of interesting, but we've seen all of these people except for Tigra and Wonder Man in this, and that Wonder Man series has been in limbo since like 2022, but we finally have information this week that Vision Quest is going forward and could very well have quite a few West Coast Avengers elements, and that's why we're seeing a 133% increase in copies sold this week.
#8 on the list is X-Men #11, and this book is looking so damn affordable. It's such a classic book that I'm officially hunting for it, but not this version. Stay tuned. We're seeing $20 average sales, $76 for a CGC 9.8 classic Wolverine Jim Lee cover. The heights that this book reached, there's some outlier sales on Heritage. We're not reporting on those. The real high is closer to $300 to $350 on average. It's going for like $76 right now. It's too cheap. Wolverine's too hot for this book to not be trending at an increase of copies sold week over week of 167%.
There's actually a second print Pressman variant. You can tell the difference because the first print is orange and the second print has a silver background. Now, this was a difficult book to get because the only way you could get the Pressman variant was if you bought the XMen board game and then you got that little card and you mailed it in, you filled it out, and you waited 6 to 8 weeks for your Pressman comic, and you prayed to God it came in the mail, and your mailman didn't fold it in half and give you a 6.0 immediately because he didn't know how to handle comic books. 9/8 of that Pressman, we have seen multiple sales in the last year, only 4, super low number, $750 to $850. So the Pressman variant, which is significantly scarcer, is going for a little more than the regular one was going in a 9.8. And if you really want to hunt something good and fun and you're an X-Men completionist, I think the Pressman one is where it's at.
#7 on the list is Fantastic Four 211 from 1979, seeing $60 average sales, $618 for a CGC 9.8. This book was hitting over $1,600 back in 2021 when the alt Herald of Galactus were being specced on heavily. And we've actually got a little bit of a taste of that, knowing that Shatilov Surfer is coming to the MCU and already cast. A lot of likelihood that if there is a spin-off series on Disney Plus, that we may see more Heralds of Galactus. And for a non-surfer Herald, this one would be awesome to see. But how much would we see is the question. An increase of copies sold of 175% this past week.
We've been hearing rumors for a couple years now that there is going to be a Silver Surfer show on Disney+. And we've talked a lot about Shatilov, and Nor and Rad would just make sense. Terrax would be a great addition to that show. But what we do know is there is going to be a Fantastic Four movie. We don't know whether Terrax will be in it, but he would have a good place in that. The latest Fantastic Four news is that Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing is going to be in a practical costume. And I can tell you that fanboys everywhere, including myself, were super excited to see these orange rocks all over his face. This photo is awesome, and I'm getting more and more excited for this movie every day.
They took Kirby Thing and put him on the screen. Look at this Alex Ross. I mean, this is right here the most comic accurate version of the Thing we've gotten thus far. And I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you think about it. I am so hyped for Fantastic Four. Let's move on to number 6 on the list. We have Wolverine 36, the first appearance of Wolverine, which came out in 2023. Marvel's arguably best new character over the last year, because they've been doing a lot of number ones lately. You know, a lot of relaunching of titles. So there hasn't been a lot of new characters. Well, this comic book spiked clear past $200 at release, and it's selling for a lot less. Looking pretty attractive. $50 average sales, $127 for a CGC recent 9.8. But 100 new copies added to the census in 9.8 in 5 months makes that make sense. Well, Benjamin Percy killed it. The miniseries took off at LCS's. It's been granted an ongoing series. I mean, he bridged Ghost Rider and Wolverine together to make a supernatural badass character. No surprise that people are picking this up now, while the prices have softened a little bit, but the buzz is high.
When Wolverine debuted, I think everyone I know thought that the mashup of Ghost Rider and Wolverine was just incredibly badass. And then they went one step even farther, making Daken, Wolverine's son, Wolverine. Now, instead of Daken, he's being known as Akihiro, which is a Japanese word that means autumn or brilliant, or the literal translation, Akihiro, bright boy. And I really like this because if you have Ghost Rider with the flames and you're calling him bright boy, it's very literal, and I think that is a great name for him.
You're just saying that because your last name is Bright. Damn it, Russ. Number 5 on the list. Super surprised to see this news. Devilina, number 1 from 1975. Wasn't she in like maybe 2 or 3 comic books in total? This is a character based off of Zatanna, based off of Vampirella, that doesn't have a whole lot of history, but is integral to the history of Atlas Comics.
Just to steal a phrase from my good buddy, the Golden Age Guru, this is a tough book. So this is a magazine-sized book, and it had this awful pulpy paper and really just low quality paper on the cover. $80 average sales, $350 for CGC 9.8 back in May of 2021.
Dude, there are 4 9.8s on the census.
Oh, I know. This is a really, really tough book in any grade. Devilina is a cool character. There were only 2 issues that were released from Atlas Seaboard. And just a little bit of history, we have talked about the Atlas comics before because Paramount bought everything. So they were able to get the Conan ripoff. They were able to get the Batman ripoff and all of these other ones.
The Dracula ripoff. They did like fantasy, supernatural, superhero, and the list of people behind Atlas, you'd probably be surprised.
Marvel has been known in the past to be a little bit litigious if someone is trying to take their characters or do something with properties that they shouldn't. So why would they allow Atlas Seaboard to be able to do things that are so close to so many of their characters? Well, it's because Martin and Charles Goodman, who founded Timely Comic Books, you know, Marvel Comics #1, and Larry Lieber, who happened to be Stan Lee's brother, founded this company together. They took some major players, Ernie Colin, Neil Adams, I mean, some really big people. They came over to work on Atlas Seaboard Comics. And this one, with option news, we're going to see a live-action film from Devilina. Again, it's something that just flew under the radar, but it's such a cool book. A 1,400% increase in copies sold means nobody was specking on this book.
The acquisition by Paramount, like what, 4 or 5 years ago, is what's given this title, the Atlas run, over 100 issues, a little bit of a resurgence, but they're really affordable and it seems pretty unlikely. But there is a platform like Paramount Plus that you can watch shows on, it would make sense to see that they would be trying to utilize characters to kind of ride the Disney Plus train a little bit, at least. Well, this character, although has gone way under the radar, would be a springboard to the Atlas universe, which is why this comic has just gotten so damn exciting. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, because I think this is something you may be able to find on the hunt, because not a whole lot of people are watching the Atlas universe. This is the kind of book that you would sell and go, why did they just buy this? I need to look this book up.
And being that it's magazine-sized, a lot of people don't even look at those boxes. They just gloss over anything that's the size of a magazine. That might be where you find some gold.
ComicTom101.com. Join the mystery mail call. Support what we do. We have Amico Swyan, ASM 16, Alt Perspective, Venom 200 going in every single box. And possibly our biggest exclusive of the year thus far, John Boy Myers on Wolverine Revenge, Red Band, mature, explicit. We had to pay for the poly bag. Wolverine is as bloody as Marvel would let us get. And that is guaranteed one per box. Link in the description. Support what we do. We'll send you comics every month. Number 4 on the list. I love this book. This book is underrated. It is selling for better prices than it has in years. And although it's down, it's a blue chip key. Avengers 57. The second appearance of Ultron and the first appearance of the Vision. This book is selling for like under $1,000 at a 9.0. Averages are $1,100. 9.6s going for $6,300. The 12-month average on between 9.0 and 9.6 are all down. And when you go lower grades, this book gets super appealing. I think this book is just undervalued.
With more Vision Quest news about the West Coast Avengers and the announcement that James Spader was going to be coming back as Ultron, of course we're going to see a 240% increase in copies sold on this book. One of my favorite Avengers covers of all time. Really just a beautiful book with red. In 2019, Marvel had an exhibit at the Mopop Museum in Seattle, and I actually got the pleasure of seeing the original art of this.
I did too.
And
it was so freaking cool.
one of the favorite things about that was the fact that you get to see that it's a composite cover. They had to cut out the Avengers and they had to cut out the letters and all of the above. But it was just great to stand in the presence of such an amazing blue chip key. And it's awesome to see this on the list this week. This is definitely one of my personal favorites in a book that I will buy every time I see it.
It's crazy to think that it wasn't until February of this year that Paul Bettany had even made comments about his return as the Vision, like reprising the role. He was literally asked, "Are you still doing this?" And his response was a little like, "Well, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, of course, like 100%." But I think that's indicative. Like that response is like a surprise a little bit that he's being asked because we have been in the dark. Like, is this guy actually coming back? Like, it's been a long time since WandaVision.
Yeah.
So I think that gap has not helped this book. And now that we're getting Vision Quest news and Ultron news, people are looking at it going, damn, the prices are so low. This is a book that should sell for more. Keep an eye out on this one. And really keep an eye out on the next 3 books that are on this list. Number 3 on the list is Howard the Duck. Number 1, this is from 2016. This is the first in-story appearance of Gwenpool, seeing $12 average sales, $139 for a CGC 9.8. The only Gwenpool spec really, I mean, of course, there was always a little hopes that maybe they'd do something in Deadpool Wolverine, but I don't think anyone really expected that.
No.
Is the Into the Spider-Verse stuff, which may happen, but really, it's got to be because of Fortnite.
A 371% increase in copies sold because millions of gamers can't be wrong. Again, another book being propelled onto this list by Fortnite. Gwenpool is a playable character in Fortnite. You can unlock her by completing, I think it's only like 10 levels. It doesn't take that long. She looks amazing. She's a playable character. You can encounter her on the map. If you're a Fortnite fan, it's great, but I still don't think this is the Gwenpool book that you should be buying.
That's right. She actually first appeared on a variant cover. What is it? It's Deadpool's Secret Wars #2. And that book, I looked up prices on it. Holy crap, has that dropped?
Oh my God. It was over $1,000 for a 9.8 at one point in time, and it is much less than that now.
Too cheap.
Oh my God, yeah.
That book is so dope, man. I would have paid $500 for that book in recent years, and now it's what, like $200?
Tom, if you want to buy it now, you could spend $200 to $250, but if you're really patient, you might even get it on auction for $150. This book has fallen very, very far, and for such a fan favorite character, I really think this is one to buy.
Which brings us to number 2 on the list. And I think about this book a lot. I think about this character a lot. Imagine if things were different And when looking at all these new characters that they're bringing on the screen and who's going to lead this new team in the MCU and, what's the next big movie going to be and where Chadwick Boseman would be within all of this. I think Black Panther would be one of the biggest A-list characters to this day, probably dominating the screen in multiple movies. And it's such a shame. And it was 4 years ago this week that he passed. One of the biggest losses in superhero cinema history. And number 2 on the list is Fantastic Four number 52, the first appearance of Black Panther, which is undervalued, underrated, and I'm always hunting for this book. Not just for like spec or investment. Like I want it for my PC.
We're reporting a 1.8 thousand average sale, but again, all over the range. You can get mid-grade copies for like $500. It's a 183% increase in copies sold this week. And I believe most of the comic book community thinks that this book is undervalued, and that's the reason why we don't see high-grade copies of this go very often. This year, the highest graded copy we had go was a 9.4 that went for $15,000. Last year, in September of 2023, we had a $30,000 copy of a 9.6. We have not seen a 9.8 sell since December 2017, which is right before the release of the first Black Panther movie. That one went for $51,700 just a few months before the movie was released. I can only imagine the heights that this would have hit had Chadwick Boseman still be around. His presence is absolutely missed in the cinematic universe and the comic book collecting universe. Rest in power.
Which brings us to the number 1 trending hottest book in the world. Buckle up, because it's all because of the Lizard King. Number 1 on the list is Avengers 55, the first appearance of Ultron in full, because James Spader is going to be reprising his role, his legendary role as Ultron from Age of Ultron, which is crazy to me that more people don't give him the respect he deserves.
Age of Ultron was such a fantastic movie, and we introduced Wanda and Quicksilver. I think a lot of people are just kind of down on it because it's a Joss Whedon movie, but watch it again because James Spader is absolutely brilliant. And if you have a chance to get an actual DVD copy and watch all of the extras, it is great to see him in the motion capture. Like, it really shows you what a master of his craft James Spader is.
Yeah, that behind the scenes stuff, you actually can find it on YouTube, little bits and pieces of it. And you're just going to enjoy the actors and the actresses' reaction. Like your favorite actors from the MCU just standing in awe, watching him become the android. It's a very powerful thing. And this book, $385 on average, but look at this, a 9.8 for first appearance of Ultron in full, $2,400.
Ooh.
Like, that doesn't seem right. Like, I had to check that price. $2,400 for a 9.8?
For a blue chip from 1968 Silver Age book. Seriously, that seems super low for a 9.8.
All right, but let's say, oh, Tom, like a 9.8 is just way out of my price range. Like, there's just no way. Dude, a 9.0 you can get for under $300 right now.
You can get raw copies for probably $100. And I think not a lot of people are really banking on more Ultron stuff. So this James Spader news came out of nowhere.
An increase of copies sold week over week of 525% because of the Vision Quest announcement that James Spader will be joining and reprising his role as Ultron in the MCU. Do you own any of these books? Do any of these books making the list make you spec on something else? What are people missing? Help your fellow comic fan members in the comment section below. Are there any books that you think are just not worth buying right now? Like you gotta wait a little bit? Because I'm very optimistic about a lot of these. I want to hear your thoughts. And of course, as always,
Geek responsibly.
Enough said.